the little girl, because we simply don't know. She is certainly quickly left behind when the men who own her decide to go after Paul and his companions. It's just a great scene. There's a kangaroo court, because it doesn't seem like what they accuse these guys of has anything to do with what they did. Did you hear the things they accused them of? Being Jews. Oh, anti-Semitism in Philippi in 80 of the first century. They're causing a hubbub in the city. Oh, kind of like causing riots, maybe like what's going on in Thailand today. They're advocating unjust laws according to Rome. That's what those owners of the slave girl accuse these guys of. They don't try to recover their money. That might have legitimacy. They don't want justice. They want revenge. They want revenge on these guys. So whatever inroads Paul's been making there in Philippi, the Acts reading tells us the whole crowd joined in and attacked him. I just love it. You know, it takes a while for new lessons to soak in and change a culture. Paul hadn't been there long enough to change a culture. They were stripped, beaten with rods, thrown into jail with their feet in the stocks. And what did they do there in jail? They were singing. And does that not remind you of all of the great social movements over the eons, unionizing? There was always songs. The slaves in the deep south. Nobody's seen knows the trouble I've seen. Always in the horrible gulags of Russia, in the concentration camps, there were songs that kept people's hearts alive. And then, I think this can't be true, but the story says there was an earthquake. And such a wild earthquake that it shook the prison, opened the doors of the bars, and even knocked the shackles off all the prisoners' feet. Well, the point, of course, is that they were then free to go, and so the jailer is going to throw himself on his sword because the magistrates will be furious with him for letting his prisoners go free when Paul says, "Hold up there. We didn't go anywhere. We're just sitting here singing." At which point the jailer rushes in and falls down and says, "I want what you got. I want whatever it is that lets you sing in the midst of threats to your life. I want what helps you not rush out into freedom, but to stand firm in your convictions. I want what you have." And so Paul goes home with him, and his household is baptized, and there's another conversion story. Here's the deal. Don't we all live within certain kinds of chains, certain kinds of shackles, behind certain kinds of prison doors? What do I have to do to be saved from my particular bondage, my addiction, my emptiness, my boredom? There are countless ways we lose our way in this world. Just as there's many threats that come at us from which we need to be saved. The two most prominent ones in America are consumerism, materialism, where we think all of stuff will give us meaning, and then unfortunately our history of militarism, where we think enough weapons are somehow going to keep us safe. But more recently there's this insidious creeping thing that I think is worse than all else, and it is this fear that is so alive in our culture, making us unable to open our hearts to one another, open our minds to other possibilities. Friends, in Paul's letter to the church at Galatia, he said there's no longer Jew or Greek. Oh, we have Jews and Greeks in our story this morning. There's no longer slave or free. Oh, we have slave and free in our story this morning. There's no longer male or female. Oh, we have male and female in our story this morning. All are one in Christ Jesus, Paul wrote to that church. And here in the story from Philippi is exactly that. We are all in this together. The jailer, Paul, Silas, the men who owned the little girl herself, Lydia, everybody was in bondage to something, needing to be set free. Grace, unity, all gift. True Christianity, so well illustrated in our little story this morning, lies in our refusal to sacrifice anyone, even an ill-regarded slave or a jailer, for gain or expediency. There are no throwaway people. So, with thanks to you all, no more dancing in circles. Enough is enough. We're going to join hands and dance forward and through and over whatever obstacles, picking up brothers and sisters as we go until all there is dancing and laughter. Who knows when the pricklies will come? They will. Anxiety, fear, temptation to cower or grasp rather than trusting and letting go. See Paul and those guys singing songs of hope? Or as Jim sang, today, that's good enough for me. Breathing in and breathing out's a blessing. Can't you see? Today's the first day of the rest of my life, and I'm alive and well. That's good enough. That's good enough, being alive today, not worrying about tomorrow. Because finally, and we'll hear in just a minute, there is that metaphorical big sky country, that mysterious whatever happens beyond the veil. But today, right now, Jesus invites us to come. Come into a life where all people matter, where your chains can be shaken loose, where your life each and every day can be filled with joy and hope and love and forgiveness. So Jesus invites us to come into that kind of life. So we respond to the invitation always, first by our offering, and then by the band kind of singing us on, and then through our commission and benediction, and then we go out into the world to be about God's work. So let the people respond.